And that has been Astor Piazzolla's Adios No Nino. I hope you all liked it. If you are into the music on this channel, you can download every single song that is in the background. If you go to my Discord page and you go to stream references in the Discord, you can just download all those. If you're a streamer, you can use it for background music in your own channel, or if you just want to use it for projects, you can use that for anything. If you want, no pressure. I also have the other things that I share on the stream. Sometimes if I play YouTube videos, I'll post them there. I haven't been super diligent about that, but I want to be. And I've been posting like the PowerPoints and stuff. Soon I'll post my art on the Discord. And I'm also going to use it just to share everything. So please feel free to join the Discord. Right now, one of my next goals for my whole social media venture here is to get 100 subscribers on YouTube so that I can have a custom URL. I just think it'd be like kind of nice looking. And so I'm gonna kind of focus on YouTube in the next coming weeks if I can, because I just would like that, and it seems like the next attainable goal. The other thing that I want to say that's kind of administrative, gender blending, you can make money by uploading your music to content acid sites like Envato. I'm gonna write that down. Cool, maybe. I kind of like the idea of not making money off of anything, if possible. I'm hoping that we can like sort of get to a place where money is just something that we don't even like fucking think about ever. I hope. But that's a good idea. I'm in a very, very fortunate place in my life right now where I don't know how it happened, but I like feel comfortable for a second. And so I'm not really like thinking about trying to make more money. Rather, I'm in a very blessed position where I can think about, what do I want to do with my time? What do I want to say? What do I want to do for the world? I'll be here until the meds take me. Well, you're welcome here. And I hope that you have a restful sleep and that you feel better upon waking. Thanks, Wyatt. I think it's also awesome. And I didn't shout out you or Nabil. So let me toss out some shout outs here, because Nabil cheered 400 bits before we even started. And I really appreciate Nabil, not just for the cheering, but also for everything that they do for the streaming community and for Technovore, which is our show that we were gonna do tonight, but it just kind of didn't work. I was running late. Nabil's not feeling great, so we're gonna aim for tomorrow instead. Always, Nabil. I'm sorry I didn't do it sooner, but I was just kind of getting ready for the show. Mr. Crinkle, glad to see you. Glad that you're here. And I was going to say that I don't remember what I was going to say. That's okay. Let's move on to what we're going to talk about tonight, which is that lately, the last couple of episodes, I've been talking about AI. Undercooked Indian food. That'll do it. Gosh. I don't know, like, I feel like everything is the worst thing when it happens, but stomach pain is like some of the most debilitating pain. That sucks so much. Yeah, but anyways, so tonight we've been talking about AI, and I'm not going to talk about AI tonight. We're going to talk about AI on Technovore, but since it's going to be a solo show, and because I feel impassioned to talk about it, I'm going to talk about some spiritual stuff. We're going to talk about Gnosticism, and I'm going to do it on my pen display because I've had a lot of fun writing on that. And so I'm gonna, oh wait, I already have GIMP loaded up, which is kind of sweet. I thought ahead in that particular regard. And I can just zoom out right here. I think we are actually going to change the background color that we have though, and we'll go to the screen that you can actually see what I'm doing here. So the way that we change the background color is we click this, And I think we want like a darker background color this time. And we'll do a lighter font. I've really been feeling like yellow. My nails, I have like one yellow nail on my index finger, and it's been really nice. And so yellow on burgundy I think will look really nice for what we're doing. Okay, new drawing. Here we go. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see how we feel about this. How do we feel? I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about that. I think it stands out pretty well. And so, what I'm going to talk about tonight, I actually had like a breakthrough, right? By the way, I just love seeing all the love in chat. You guys are all amazing. And I love the emotes. I love seeing the gender blending emotes. That means a lot to me. And I'm going to be coming out with more soon. Very excited about that. And I'm also going to be making stickers, which is what we're going to be doing later tonight after I'm done doing this little sort of diatribe down something that I've been thinking about for a while, but that I've never put together for people. So let's see how our thickness is right here. How is it? I think that looks really great. I don't know like how pen displays do it, but they're really amazing. All of y'all are straight up beautiful people. Yes, it's so true. It's so true. True that, double true. Okay, so I'm gonna back up from the advanced philosophy because like not everyone is here when I'm talking about these things, and so if you've heard some of these things before, then just consider it like a little review. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask, because this is like my favorite thing in the world to talk about. I love sharing these ideas with people. And I'm really honored that you all would spend your time with me. I think that time is one of the most valuable resources that we have. And so the fact that you all are just spending it with me is pretty amazing. And so tonight, everything is going to be kind of around something called Gnosticism, which I'm going to write over here. And I've talked about this a lot on stream, but we're not going to start there. Gnosticism. And the beginning of this is really important. We'll talk about that. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about something that's broader than Gnosticism. And what that is metaphysics. Physics. I'm going to go kind of slowly tonight because this is going to be a little bit more like a straightforward, just me like talking about things that are really important to me. And this is very core to the channel in the sense that like the main things that I want to say to the world are what I'm trying to say tonight. This is like the thesis statement for everything that I'm trying to do with this channel. And I never thought about all these things in conjunction until today, so I'm really excited to share. So what are metaphysics? In philosophy, there's three main schools of study. Philosophy is from philosophia, which means love of wisdom. It's one of my favorite things about it. It's not about like trying to uncover any like stone cold truth about the world. It's rather a love of wisdom. And so there's so much thought about what wisdom is. It's a love of this, and wisdom is a concept that people have talked about for a really, really long time, and I'm not going to go super into it today, but philosophy is what I studied in school alongside music, which is probably something that I like a little bit more than philosophy, but I love both really deeply. And in philosophy, there's three main schools, three main studies. Does anybody want to guess what they are? Maybe you know. Maybe you've listened to me say this before. Doesn't the colors look like really good, I think. Okay, so metaphysics, that's what we're talking about tonight, is the first one. Metaphysics. You thought about you, thought about me, and thought about thought. That's good. No, actually all of those, thought about you, me, and thought. If you're thinking about these three things, then that's actually an example of the next subject, which is epistemology. I love Vienna Circle. I like a lot of things. Epistemology is the study of knowledge. Or, how do we know what we know? How do we know what we know? Okay. We're gonna erase part of this probably. But yeah, so if you're thinking about you and me in thought, Wyatt, then that's an epistemological question. But those are really good questions. Nabil cheered for 50. Nice. Thank you so much. Is metacognitive studies epistemology? Give me 1 second and I'll answer that, but I have to get the eraser here really quickly. I don't know why this isn't working here. Here we go. Okay. It's metacognitive studies. I have to think about what metacognitive studies is. So metacognitive, so that's like studies that are about the study of thought. Is that what that is? Thinking about thinking? Yeah, that would be epistemological. Yes, for sure. For sure. That's epistemology. Yeah, and I could talk about epistemology a lot because one of the things that I was going to say is that when I studied philosophy, whoa, that's way too much. We're using 10 before, and that was pretty good. When I studied philosophy, Paige, when I studied philosophy, I studied Asian philosophy, I studied epistemology, I studied ethics, and I studied the philosophy of science. And these were the things that I studied the most in particular. I did not study metaphysics like that in depth, but the philosophy of science is a type of metaphysics. Hi, Grumpy Coffee. It's very good to see you. Thank you for sharing the Vine link. I said earlier that we were collecting money for that cause, but I didn't actually say it out loud. And I'm trying to get the notifications to pop up on my stream, but I kind of made a mistake when I was setting it up. And so it's not kind of working right now, but I'll look at it throughout the stream and I'll mention people if they donate. Okay, so I'm kind of partially just having fun with a pen display. Like, part of why I'm doing all these art streams recently is that this is a literal dream come true for me to have this, and I really highly recommend it. I got this pen display for about, like if you're gonna get a monitor, you might as well get a pen display, because it basically just acts like another monitor. Anyways, that's a diversion. Let me get back to the subject at hand. The third school, you might have thought of this already, is ethics. So when you're talking about philosophy, almost every single philosophical conversation is going to fall under one of these three categories. That's not always true, but mostly that's true. There are like sort of sub branches that people think are like sort of extra on top of it, But these are the main three. And ethics you probably already know. But let me write on this scene here. Let me write what I would say that these things are. Hold on. So I'm gonna zoom out here. And so I'm gonna write down metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics again. Erase this really quickly. So I wasn't sure how like in detail I was gonna write this, but I'm gonna take my time and write it nicely. Okay, so metaphysics is what's out there, okay? I'm starting at the very beginning because I've been thinking about it, and like I kind of realized that I think I overestimate how much people know about these things sometimes. I try to be like really empowering, and like I try to be like sure that people can like learn everything, because I really believe anyone can learn anything. But like I shouldn't just assume that people know this stuff. For me, this has been a part of like my vernacular for a very long time. And the thing is that in our society, people use words very willy-nilly, and when they say something, they might be saying something that's like similar to what they're trying to say, but it could be interpreted incorrectly. And philosophy is a lot about speaking articulately and saying precisely what it is that you mean. And so the words that you use really mean specific things, and sometimes I'll say things and I think people are trying to fill in blanks because maybe they haven't heard some of the vocabulary that I'm using. And so I want to go like really into depth about some of the words that are most common and the ones that are going to be used tonight to talk about the topics that I'm bringing up. Clarity and communication. Yeah, seriously. Okay, so metaphysics is what is out there. And this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. What is out there? What is the world? What is the world? For example, I'm not the only person who thinks this, but I think that instead of matter, I think that the basis of reality is actually information. I'm not the only person who's ever argued that, but that would be a metaphysical claim. What is time? Is a metaphysical question. You're asking about the basis of the physical reality. That's what metaphysics is. So physics, reality, like the laws of reality. And then this is like thinking basically about the laws of reality. Basically string theory. Yeah, it has a lot in common with that. It's kind of, I kind of think that it's more quantum physics, but I don't know, like, at that point, like, I'm just not qualified to say, I feel like, to a certain extent. But let me go through this really quickly here. So we did metaphysics. I'm going to say epistemology. At first glance to start the topic. Yeah, no, totally, for sure. Yeah, like, I mean, we could talk about that all day. All those subjects are so fascinating, and like I said, I studied the philosophy of science, which that is a metaphysical thing, philosophy of science. Because you're postulating how does, like, reality work, of course, and what's, like, the purpose of science? That's more of an ethical question. Okay, epistemology is how do we know what we know? So how do you know that, like, this is the question of, like, are you a solipsist? Do you think that you're the only conscious being? How do you know that, like, that the scale of the universe is exactly the way that we say it is? I don't know, there's so many different questions about how do we know what we know, and all of semantics is a part of epistemology. All of semantics, analyzing language, semantics, linguistics. And linguistics actually started off just as being considered philosophy at first. And then it kind of became its own school when Noam Chomsky sort of popularized linguistics. Wasn't really its own school of study for a long time. And then ethics. So ethics is something that a lot of people like have an understanding of that's internal, but a lot of people have trouble defining what ethics is. And so ethics is, and here's a really good definition in my opinion. If you think you have a better definition of ethics for this, then I'd be very curious what it is, because I've never heard something that compares so well to this definition of ethics, and it goes in conjunction with the other two schools of study, which is why I said it in this order, and it's why I think this is so important. Ethics is how we act. That's the crucial word. How we act in relation to what we know. Okay? And see, now how beautiful is that? How beautifully does that interweave together these three different schools into one study that is philosophy? Because in metaphysics, we're making a claim. We're making a claim about the fabric of reality, about the way that the world operates. And then in epistemology, we're validating the claims that we're making. Is this actually true? Like, is what I'm perceiving legitimate? Can I base claims off of what I'm actually witnessing and what I'm experiencing right now? And then ethics is where it comes into practice, and you act based on what you know. And it almost happens in that order. It doesn't always. And there are people who just study ethics in particular. There are people who just study medical ethics. You can get a doctorate in just medical ethics. But all philosophical questions really boil down to one of these three schools. And when you're talking about metaphysics, it's really hard not to talk about epistemology and ethics, because all of these things interweave. They all interweave. So I say all of this because I'm going to be using these words, and I mean them in these really particular ways, and a lot of the definitions sort of tie into each other. And so I'm going to share all of these things on the Discord, just in case anybody's curious about these. And if you have your own ideas and you want to just like incorporate these, you can use them. You don't even have to credit me. I'm a big believer in just putting everything that I have out to the world for free. I don't, it's not mine, it's just what it is. And I made this stream because I want to help foster in a different type of existence, literally, which is a pretty big goal. Okay, so we talked about the three schools of philosophy, and I'm going to go ahead and do a new file based on drawing basic here. And so what are we going to talk about? This is what I've been talking about for the last like week or two, heavily, but we're gonna go like really deep, and I'm gonna draw some very cool conclusions from all of this. And I hope that I change the way that you view religion and faith. I really do. I'm not trying to make you religious, but rather I'm hoping to give you a framework for understanding metaphysical thought practically. Okay, so this is practical metaphysics. This is practical metaphysics. And this is so important. This is so important. And this isn't going to be the main slide. I'm actually going to be coming back here probably later. But this is what we're going to be doing, is practical metaphysics. And so if we go back to this slide, what does that mean again? What's out there? What's in the world? And so a lot of the time when you're talking about metaphysics, you can be very out of touch with the reality of the situation, which is kind of funny. It's kind of ironic that talking about reality would be out of touch with reality, right? When you're sitting and postulating about how the fabric of the universe works, you're not particularly engaged in the universe. You're almost separate from it, just in your own realm of thought, like thinking about the physical reality. So it's kind of funny that when you're thinking about it, that you're not there, right? I don't know. I'm waxing poetic, but that's what all of this is waxing poetic. I hope that you appreciate it, because I've been thinking about it a lot for a long time. I've been trying to say these things to the world my whole life, you know? And I feel like people haven't really listened to me, but now I have like a sort of medium of sharing my ideas and hearing other people's ideas. So, especially as a trans woman, I just think it's so important to have uh, my perspective out there in a world where there's so little sort of attention given to us specifically. It's mostly people talking about us who aren't trans. Okay, so I did make notes, and I just want to make sure I don't miss anything before I go forward. And please feel free to ask questions or just like share your thoughts as I say these things, because what I'm saying is not how I think it is. What I'm saying is this is how I best understand it right now. And I'm kind of trying to invite other people's thoughts and critiques, because I specifically am confounded at how reality still seems to exist every day, when to me it seems much more likely that no reality should probably exist. I'm really confused about existence. I'm genuinely curious. And everybody seems so comfortable existing every single day, but I'm literally just in awe every moment of my life. And so if you have thoughts, if you can clarify the paradoxes to me, then I'd be very interested, because I've been reading philosophy all my life, and it just seems that people are as or more confused than I am. And then people like Thomas Quine will create entire languages just to like explain these things. Okay. I'm just gonna have a sip of coffee here. One moment. Okay, so I'm gonna try and clarify some words that people use interchangeably that shouldn't be used interchangeably. Okay? Because there are words that people use very willy-nilly that we can give very precise definitions, I think. And we've already talked about what metaphysics is, so I'm just gonna write it small. Metaphysics, and I'll just write it really, really small, because we've already talked about it. And I'll say out there, question mark. That'll just like remind us what it is. But that's just like, that's a reference, quick reference on this page, so that we don't have to switch back and forth. But what is faith? Okay, faith, I would say, and you genuinely can disagree with me on these things. I'm interested to hear what you all have to say. I'm not saying this is how it is. I'm saying this is my understanding of it. And if you agree, that's also interesting to me. So please feel free to, we can make this as much of a dialogue as you want. But to me, what faith is belief in unverifiable information. If you have a tighter or more accurate definition, please let me know, but that's what I think faith is. What is religion? I'm gonna give a very harsh definition of what religion is. I've been hurt by religion a lot. I'm actually very hesitant to accept religion into my life. What I believe that religion is dogma, And I'll define what dogma is. Dogma is strict customs and rules. Dogma regarding metaphysical views, or dogma um uh uh I'm trying to think of the word that I'm trying to it's like premised upon metaphysics. It's dogma we'll go back to it. So Gnosticism is going to be something we talk about really in depth, but I do want to write it. Oh wait, actually not Gnosticism just yet. So what I'm trying to think of is like when you base an opinion on something else, like, so because I'm trying to be very specific about my language here. It's like dogma. Oh, here we go. Dogma based on metaphysical claims. I think that's really good. Yeah, and there's definitely a canon component. Yeah, canon, lore, tradition, folklore. Like all these things totally play into what religion is. Tradition, culture, like honestly, well, culture is kind of different than religion. I don't really want to write culture in here because culture and religion, they're like intertwined, but I do think they're two different things for sure. Culture is probably broader than religion, but it's based on metaphysical claims. But sometimes people will say metaphysics when they mean religion. I think so. Spirituality is the next one I want to cover. Spirituality. And I think a lot of people already think about these things, but it's not always clear. I think spirituality is the depth of belief in extrasensory activity. I don't know. I might change that. Activity. Because spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is like an. Actually, I'm gonna change that. I feel like that doesn't do it justice. 'Cause spirituality is almost as deep as religion in and of itself. But spirituality is like a personal relationship, a personal relationship with metaphysical claims. So, how we personally embrace it? No. I don't want to use the word personally twice. I thought I had better ways to define these, but I do like this, a personal relationship with metaphysical claims. We might come back to it. This is not the most important part. I just want to have it down there. I'm just trying to be as thorough as I can. We're actually going to start on the main bulk of this, right? And so we're going to be talking on spectrums. Spectrums of belief. Okay? And so there's the Gnostic spectrum. Gnostic spectrum. And this is what I've been talking about on stream for a while, this like whole week. And I'm gonna redraw that line to be a little bit lower. Even lower, actually, probably. Okay, that's pretty good. So we're gonna do an arrow here. We're gonna do an arrow here. And so we didn't define what Gnosticism is, and we like really should talk about that for a second. I actually deleted the slide that we made on Gnosticism the other night, and we're gonna kind of go back and forth between these two slides because I don't know of a better way to do this. But Gnosticism is a belief in a personal relationship with higher powers, basically, slash extrasensory activity, I guess. Okay. We might refine that too a little bit. But Gnosticism is derived from the word gnosis, which means direct perception with or of anything. Insert here. Okay, and so this actually is what the word knowledge is derived from. Knowledge, because knowledge is experience derived from direct perception with or of something. So what knowledge is an accrual of information derived from the direct perception of something or with something. So a Gnostic experience would be the first time that you try and make a latte, literally. Well, that's a knowledge experience because you've never experienced it before. It's new, but you're directly perceiving this activity for the first time. You're like taking it in. Now, when it comes to Gnosticism and when it comes to faith, what it's concerned with is the direct perception of the divine. Okay. Hopefully that all makes sense. Because that's all the definitions, and now we get to put them in practice, and this is the most important part, and we can get to go back and forth, and I can talk about this forever, but that's all the definitions. I know it's a lot of stuff. Now we have to talk about 4 different spectrums. There's 4 spectrums. And so before we actually even start with the Gnostic spectrum, I'm going to get rid of this for a second. And I'm just going to write down what the spectrums are, and then we'll make them on separate pages. So the first one that we're going to talk about is agnostic. And I'm just going to put X Gnostic rather than verses, because I don't want this to seem like they're like opposing each other, even though they are different stances. Okay, theist. And so I guess there are more definitions here, because I'm going to be defining what a theist and a non-theist is, or well, in this case, an atheist. Wouldn't it make more sense to be atheist first, since I wrote agnostic first? Atheist versus a theist, right? And again, these are words that we've probably all heard, but I'm gonna like try and put them into context together tonight. This is something that's so important to me. And then secular versus religious. And then here's the last one, right? And this one is actually really important, and we'll get to it. Active versus inactive. Oh my gosh, right? Active versus inactive. So this is like sort of our this is like our title card. Everything has been exposition, but this is actually like sort of the beginning of everything. This is the main thing that I wanted to go over, and everything else has been, these are the words we're going to use to talk about this, right? These spectrums are what I'm going to try and map out so that we can all like contextually understand what belief is and what faith is and what like religion is and how to live in relation to all these things. So I'm going to make a new screen here. Okay. So we'll start with the Gnostic spectrum. I've done this before on stream, and I wish I had saved it, but I didn't, which is okay. So we're going to make a line across. This is the Gnostic spectrum. I'll label it Gnostic spectrum. And so on one end of this, we have an atheist. On the other end, we have a theist. And so, what does that mean? It means that one of these people believes in God 100% of their whole being, and that one of them has no belief whatsoever, right? So this is a spectrum because you can be certain that God exists, or you could be like 60% certain. You can have different levels of certainty. You can not be sure. You can hold things lightly, right? I'm 60% sure that there's someone listening to me right now as I say these things. I'm more than 60% sure of that. Okay. So you can also be 60% sure that God doesn't exist. I was thinking of you when I said it, Wyatt. I was like, I bet Wyatt's tuned in. Okay. If you're to the right on this, alright, let's start with the left, right? If you're on the left, then this is the word that everybody knows, but now we're going to contextualize it graphically. We're going to contextualize what being agnostic is graphically, because we haven't done this as a society. We need to understand these words, and we need to contextualize what belief is in a way that is secular, which is a word we're going to talk about. Look at this. How beautiful is this? How simple does this make belief look? Like, if you want to describe your faith, this is a pretty good chart to do it on. So anyone who's somewhat sure that there is a God is technically agnostic. They don't have to identify that way, but technically that's what it is on the scale. And if you're pretty sure that there isn't actually any sort of higher power or anything else, but you're not certain of that, then you'd be agnostic. So this could technically be 100% or 0%. It could be a 0% belief in God, or it could be a 100% disbelief in God. It could be either. So we'll even do this. We can do this. Ready? This is a good way to demonstrate that. Is we'll do belief, and then we'll do this. We'll put dis in parentheses, and then we'll put 10 with parentheses here, and then so you can see it's either 0% belief or 10% disbelief, and then that also applies to this, is either 100% belief or 0% disbelief. But we won't write that tautology there. Okay, so that's the Gnostic spectrum, and let's go back to here. So, oh wait, this one, let's go back to here. We just defined these 4 words. Okay? We just defined these 4 words. I said we were going to go over 4 different spectrums here, and we already just covered 2 of them on one spectrum. Technically, those are 2 different things. And this is going to be a very important... This is a crucial distinction. This is so crucial. This is, of everything that I say tonight, this is one of the most important things. And I've never even been able to say this to anyone before, but these distinctions really do matter. And so I want to write down a couple different categories that can actually come out of this. And I just really quickly wrote some notes about this because I wanted to be very accurate. So, hold on, where is it? Okay, so you can be um an agnostic theist, okay? So there's 4 categories. When people look at this, they'll probably see 2 categories, but this is so important. There's 4 possible categories here. And this makes where we're headed a lot more complicated because there's a bunch of different extrapolations that you can make from these assertions. There's a lot of different ones. And if it was just 2, there'd be a lot less. But it being 4 makes it exponentially more complicated than that. And it's part of why there's so much strife in the world. But I think understanding these categories is very crucial. Because these, like, people would say that this doesn't matter, but this is actually the fucking fabric underpinning of the discontent that exists between religious people and non-religious people. And a big mission of my channel is to bridge the divide between those 2 things, because we need to understand that, like, it doesn't matter. And mostly, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think mostly it's on religious people to chill the fuck out, because most atheists are chill as fuck. Like, most atheists don't give a fuck as long as you leave them alone. But religious people just get so fucking uptight about making everyone believe what they want to believe, and that's coming from someone who considers themselves religious. I really try to do it in the least pushy way possible because I think it's so fucked up to make other people feel like they have to believe what you believe. I am constantly trying to push people to question themselves and to question me and to question all the sources that we're looking at, and I appreciate it when people like are really inquisitive and thorough in their thought. So I just want to say that like really clearly. But here's the thing, is that some of these are easy to see because there's the Gnostic theist. Okay, there's 4 categories. There's the Gnostic theist, and then there's the agnostic theist. By the way, this is the piece, Vaults in Sky, which is one of my favorite pieces, like, ever. I've been playing it all the time, and I actually did get to meet this composer, and I played a world premiere of one of their pieces, which is really amazing. And there's actually a recording of the world premiere, but it was a very poor quality recording, so it's not on the channel or anything. But it's not this piece. That's not what I was recording. It was a different piece than this one, you know? Know what I'm saying? Alright, cool. So you can be a Gnostic theist or an agnostic theist, which is a kind of complicated one. Or you can be a Gnostic atheist, which is complicated. A Gnostic atheist. Or you can be agnostic atheist, right? Can you see how that can be like directly drawn from these above categories? So a Gnostic theist is someone who believes and believes, and they think it's verifiable. All right, no, believes and they believe that they can directly perceive, or yeah, direct experience. Yeah, that's accurate. Okay. An agnostic theist believes that there could be a higher power, but does not believe we can know it. No direct experience. No direct experience. A Gnostic atheist has no belief, and also believes that we can have either they have no belief, but they think that we could have direct, verifiable reason to not believe in God. They think that there's verifiable proof that God does not exist. So these people are very certain that that God does not exist. No belief, and this is where the words get very complicated, because again, Gnosticism doesn't have to do with faith. Gnosticism has to do with direct perception, and so a Gnostic atheist would be someone who thinks it's verifiable, no God. That's how I would interpret it, at least. And I'm gonna rewrite God to make it more clear. No God. Okay. And an agnostic atheist would be someone who has no belief, and doesn't believe we can know. We can't know. And we're gonna revisit these things. It's pretty complicated, right? If you're listening, if you're tuned in and you're still on board with all this stuff, then this is like among the most complicated, I would say, all of this gets. But it's important, right? Because these small distinctions are titanically large differences in how you perceive the world and the way that you believe that we should interact with it. And I think that the only way we can have communication with each other is if we're clear on what we believe. And I think that a lot of the time, because we haven't even been taught these terms or these understandings of the universe, then we can't know what we believe, because we haven't been exposed to the vocabulary to express what it is that we feel. And so what I'm trying to do is give people a palette of language with which they can describe their perception of the universe in regards to metaphysics. That will be freeing and help to determine how we want to incorporate technology based on our perception of the foundation of reality and the goals for humanity based on what we know about the universe, you know? So yeah, this is all very core to gender blending. Gnosticism refers to knowledge and your understanding. Yes, it does, you're right. So if we go back to this, if we go back here, Gnosis is direct perception with or of anything, and it's the root of the word knowledge. You're right. Yeah, you can kind of see what I have written here as if I move it over. Yeah, Gnosis is direct perception of. It's the root of the word knowledge, because knowledge is information that is derived from direct experience with something. So that's how Gnosis relates to this. Gnosis theists claim to know God exists, exactly, and that's what we're looking here. A Gnostic theist believes that God exists and believes that we have direct experience with God. However, you can be an agnostic theist and you can believe that there's a God, but that we just can't personally know God right now. You can be a Gnostic atheist because you can believe that you have verifiable knowledge that there is a reason to not believe in God. But an agnostic atheist would not believe in God God, but would say that we can't we can't suggest premises that are based on the assumption of no God because we can't know necessarily. There could be ways of knowing without direct experience. That is very, very true. You're right. There are other ways of knowing. And so if we go back here, at the beginning of the stream, at the beginning of this talk, we talked about the 3 schools of philosophy, which are by the way, my name's Paige. Let me back up real quick. My name's Paige. I went to school for philosophy and music, and this is gender blending, and we do a lot of stuff. Tonight, we're starting off talking about philosophy and religion, but we're gonna do other stuff too, but I love talking about this stuff. And it's cool because I can tell that you know a lot about philosophy because you're using these words so accurately. So I'm very excited that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you very much for chiming in, because I love it when people talk about these things, and I love when people say this stuff. So there could be ways of knowing without direct experience. Logical proof, for example. Hi. Yeah, totally. Logical proof, for example. Yeah. And so the 3 main schools of philosophy, the 3 main studies are metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. And we talked about sort of at length what those were, what those studies were. And so the thing is that it's true that there are ways of knowing that aren't direct perception of it. There's ways of knowing that aren't direct perception, but the reason that we're talking about direct perception of is because the word knowledge is specifically derived from gnosis, which means direct experience of. So it's not saying that the only way to derive knowledge is through direct experience. It just so happens that the word knowledge is derived from gnosis, but you can get knowledge from other sources. However, when it comes to faith in particular, Gnosticism is sort of referring to, well, direct experience of the divine or lack thereof. I didn't mean to come off as confrontational if I am. No, I am so glad that you felt comfortable enough to say that, because I was saying earlier that I'm not trying to posit this is the way that the universe is. I'm not trying to tell people this is how the universe is. Rather, I'm trying to approach this as someone who's trying to help all of us have conversations around these things and to be specific about our language. And I'm trying to say this is like my understanding, but if you have a different understanding or think that like we could understand these things better, or think that I'm like could just be more specific, or I'm misunderstanding something, I am very glad that you would feel comfortable enough to say that. And I'm really curious what people think about what I have to say, whether they agree or disagree or aren't sure. But it sounds like we're on the same page about what Gnosticism is. The only thing that I've said that I'm not totally sure about is this agnostic atheist, because it is a weird thing to think about. Because would a Gnostic atheist be someone who's certain that there isn't a God, or would a Gnostic atheist be someone who's like yeah, I think I'm right. I think it would be no belief in, but like certain that there's not a reason to believe. I'm just gonna have a drink really quickly, just one moment. Okay, but the reason that I brought this up is because if we go right here, is the main, I want to throw out there too really quickly that we are collecting money for Vine Animal Sanctuary for Pride Month. I'm a part of the Stream Beans vegan Twitch team, and all of us are collecting donations for Vine Animal Sanctuary, which is an animal sanctuary in Vermont. And we've already raised over $4,200, which is just incredible. So thank you for everyone who's donated. And I'm donating as well for like every sub and cheer. And I've donated over $20, and I need to donate another $6 so far. All right, so yeah, we've talked about agnostic and theist, but the main thesis of tonight are these spectrums of belief, because all the things we're going to be talking about are based off of these spectrums. Because it is my assertion, and you can disagree with me. You can totally disagree with me. I feel like I could write a book on this, but I believe that if we take a look at these different spectrums of belief, that we can actually basically chart out every possible stance that you could have on religion, and then verifiably see that it doesn't fucking matter what you think. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think. That's my opinion in the end. But then we're also going to end with this active versus inactive conclusion, which is so crucial. It's so tantamount. Gnostic atheists claim to know that no gods exist. Yeah, agnostic atheism for the win. Yes. Yeah, I was a staunch atheist for an extremely long time. I never ever thought that I would be a religious person in my life. And the next thing that we're actually going to define really flows into this really well, because we're going to look at secular versus religious. This is a really important idea, and I'm actually going to do a whole new slide here to do this, because we have another spectrum here. Agnostic atheism. Yeah, I'm more comfortable with agnostic atheism than Gnostic atheism. I was a Gnostic atheist. I used to believe that like religion was totally toxic and that there was no reason to have any belief in anything, and I just never thought I'd be religious. But, okay, so on one side we have secular, and then on the other side we have religious. And so, what does this have to do? We've already defined religion here, which is, in my opinion, it's dogma that's based on metaphysical claims. And this is why it was a very slow burn to get to this point, but like I needed to make all these other slides so that I could come back and like cross-reference things. But yeah, we did define religion already, and I can go back to any other slide too, and I'll post all these things in the Gender Blending Discord if you want to study them later and like tell me what you think is wrong or improve things or whatever. But let me talk about secular and religious belief, right? So religion is dogma based on metaphysical claims, and I don't know what we would call this. Like, this is kind of like the sort of, it's not the spirituality spectrum, it's kind of like the, politically charged, claims. What is this? I didn't actually really think about what this category of claims would be. This is kind of like the political ramifications. That's a good one. Political ramifications. Or no, you know what? It's not political. It's not political. I don't want to go there. I don't even want to go there. It's the personal ramifications. The personal ramifications. Cryptid Mage, hi! Thank you for dropping by! And thank you for using the gender blending emotes. I love them. Thank you. Personal, I'll write ramifications, but we can change that later. Ramifications. So, day-to-day life. Day-to-day life. And so someone religious incorporates these things daily, and for someone secular, this has no bearing on their daily life. No bearing on daily life. On daily life. Now, it's really important to note here that just because someone's religious, it does not inherently mean that they want everyone to do that. And unfortunately, huge, oh, thank you so much for that gifted subscription. Let me go ahead and shout out Cryptid Mage here. Please go follow Cryptid Mage. They've been nothing but supportive, and I really appreciate it when they drop by. Okay, so yeah, Oh yeah, encrypted. Let me just get you caught up on what we're talking about, because tonight I'm kind of talking about philosophy, and in particular I'm talking about religion and belief and faith, and sort of the political and social ramifications of some people believing in these things and some people not. And I'm not trying to anytime I talk about these things, I'm really not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm just trying to express in clear terms, like the basically ways that we can very clearly state our own like understanding of these things. You appreciate my philosophy talks. Oh, thank you. It's so important to me. Yeah, and we just spent a long time on this slide. The main part of what I'm going through are these spectrums of belief, because these are going to be like the four main things that everything I'm saying sort of go around. In what we had done up to this point was define what all of these words mean. And then we looked at this sort of spectrum called the Gnostic spectrum. And on one end, you can be certain of a belief in God. And then on the other end, you can be certain that God does not exist. And then being Gnostic or agnostic is how verifiable do you believe that your certainty is? Because you can be an agnostic theist. You can believe in a God, but think that we can't have direct experience or perception, you know? And you can be a Gnostic atheist, and you can be certain staunchly that there is no higher being. And I used to be a staunch atheist. I've been all four of these things at different parts of my life. And right now, if you had asked me what I am, I would tell you that I am actually a Gnostic theist, which might surprise you. I am a Gnostic theist, but it sounds like an extreme stance to take, but I promise you it's not, because being a theist doesn't mean that you necessarily believe 100%, but theism is just, theist is like the extreme end of the spectrum, because like saying that you're Gnostic is just very broad, kind of. I do believe in a God, but, and I'm not like completely sure, but I do feel like I've had spirituals. Okay, anyways, we're gonna talk about it way more. But yeah, we're talking about secular and religious, and this is like, oh, and this is Bach. By the way, if you're into the music on the channel, which I am, because it's me, this is Bach that we're listening to. And if you like piano, if you like guitar, those are my two instruments. I went to school for music and philosophy, and if you go to the stream references under the Discord, you can actually download all the music that I post. So that's kind of cool. And I also publish my slides, and I'll put this stuff up there too if you're curious. Okay, so yeah, this is, when it comes to secular and religious, this is how does this play a role in your daily life, right? Because like for me, and I'll talk about my specific beliefs more later on in the night. I just wanted to put out all the different words and stuff and then use them to talk about my own perspective on these things. But for me, I am a religious person, and I'm actually very deeply religious. I'm probably more religious than most people I know. However, I am an extremely secular person. I'm very much on the secular side. I embrace my humanity, and I do not follow any religious rite or ritual in my life right now, except for a very loose ritual of praying when I go to bed. I do pray when I go to bed. And, you know, there are religious observances that I have, but they're not really daily. And for me, veganism is a religious experience. Veganism is a spiritual thing for me. So you could argue that's my daily life. And people will perceive veganism in different ways. You know, very staunch atheists will be vegan for very good reasons, and all of our reasons overlap. And that's the thing that we need to understand, of course, and I think most of us do, is that no matter where we fall on any of these spectrums, we just need to like respect each other and realize that none of us really know. And if a religious person claims to know, then they're fucking arrogant because they're saying that there's a God that they understand. Fuck that. No, they don't. I haven't met God yet, but like, I think that they can't understand God. I've been thinking about God a lot, and that's one thing. There's not a lot of things that I'm certain about, but I'm certain that if there was a God, that we could not understand it, because I don't think that we could. I just I don't know, maybe that's not a good argument. It's kind of tautological, but anyways, yeah, so this is the personal ramifications, is like sort of how secular or religious is your life? How deeply ingrained is this in your sort of personal life? And you know, societies are different amounts secular or religious, of course. And in my opinion, no society should impose any sort of religious belief on anyone. But of course, in our increasingly authoritarian world, that is unlikely, which is so fucking crazy, right? In our fucking Handmaid's Tale growing world here. But we're gonna try and push against that, of course. So now let's take a look at combining the spectrums that we've had so far, right? Because this is where it starts getting really interesting, right? Because you can be a theist, and you could be a Gnostic theist, or you could be an agnostic theist, okay? Or you could be a agnostic atheist, and you see, the more that we use these words, you'll see why we need to be specific, and also why it's helpful to have them, is that now it's so easy to understand what these words mean. And like, without like understanding these things, these words could mean so many different things to different people, but with these clear definitions, it just becomes so clear, what does this mean? So all of these people could be either secular or religious, right? Believe it or not, a Gnostic atheist could sort of, maybe religious would be the wrong word, but there can be atheistic religious people. And I know that that's so hard to understand, and that's like one of the cruxes that I was sort of coming to tonight, is that there can be atheistic religious people. So when you think about it, Buddhism is an atheistic religion. Not all of them are, but Buddhism is an atheistic religion. And there are other examples of that too. If we go back to this slide right here, click the wrong one. Where is it? Yeah, religion. All that religion is a dogma based on metaphysical claims, right? Isn't this so trippy to think about? All religion is a dogma based on metaphysical claims. If you disagree with me, you know a couple of Jewish atheists. Exactly, Judaism is another faith with rampant atheism. Yeah, there's a lot of atheistic Jewish people, and I also know some. Totally, yeah, a really good example. Yeah, because all religion is... Let me clear my throat really quickly. I'm just gonna have another drink. Yeah, because all religion is dogma, and what I'm defining as dogma is strict customs or rules. And dogma might also, it could also include being like evangelist, like evangelization, proselytizing, I think that's how you spell it. That's a tough word, right? You can't be too upset if I spell that one wrong. That's when you're pushy. That's when you're pushy about anything. And you can totally be an evangelical atheist. That is a complete possibility. And I started off tonight when I sort of got into this whole atheist and theist thing. Like, this is just my personal stance. This is just my personal opinion. I'm just going to give my anecdotal experience. But I find that religious people, by and large, tend to be shittier than non-religious people. I think that religious people, generally speaking, need to take a fucking chill pill and need to not worry about what other people believe. I think that that is a general rule. However, at the same time, there are evangelical atheists who need to chill the fuck out and realize that there are people who will have faith without actual verifiable evidence of it, and that it's an admirable thing to have faith and belief in something. That's a beautiful quality, and we actually all have faith in certain things. And so I'm trying to bridge divides, but it's easy to get heated about these things because we've all been hurt by everyone, and these are all such personal topics. But I'm trying to make strong claims but also helpful claims. Yeah, I've considered converting to Judaism, and even some theistic Jews told me that belief in God isn't necessary to the religion, for sure. And I don't want to dox myself, but here, you should check out this show if you're interested in Judaism. You should check out this show. It's called Hi, How Are You? Check out that podcast, Apple Podcasts. I actually know the person who is on the show. It's a really good podcast, and we've met several times. I was pretty good friends with the person who does that show. There's two people, and so I was friends with one of them. But if you're interested in Judaism, the show is about queer Judaism. So they study the Talmud, and they just talk about how gay the Talmud is. It's really, really good. So that's really awesome. One of them is a trans woman, and the other person is sort of on a gender journey, and they're sort of just like going through different things, you know? And they talk about like transness and queerness in Judaism. It's really, really interesting. One of my favorite episodes, I have two favorite episodes. I'll write down my two favorite episodes. My two favorite episodes are Talmudic Trans Girls, or Back in the USSR. Really recommend that show. Super recommend shouting it out. Oh, and I'm also gonna give the Grimps a shout out here. Whoops. It's actually this one. Grimpy Coffee. Everybody go follow Grimpy Coffee. Follow Corrupted Mage. Follow Nabil225. Follow the whole crew. It's like, honestly, I've been thinking about this so much, is like, why wouldn't you follow everyone on Twitch? Like, you don't lose anything from following people, just fucking follow people, you know? Just click the button and help them out. Like, you know, it doesn't hurt us, and it only helps people, right? Unless they're shitty, I guess. Don't, like, I actually there was a trans streamer who I like sat in on, and then I followed them, and then they said something that I thought was really shitty, and then I was like, I'm gonna revoke my follow. I'm not gonna follow you, I'm sorry. I don't agree with what you're saying vehemently. But I don't even remember what it was, because when I hear chud-like things, I just kind of let it go, and I just try not even to think about it anymore, you know? I hope I don't come across like a chud. Like, just because sometimes, like, I'll just, like, say really strong things, and, like, that can sound chud-like, no matter how well-intended it is, you know? Just if you have a strong opinion on anything. I don't want to seem like that. Ever. Ever. When I was growing up, my number one goal was to make sure that everyone around me felt like they were welcome. I hate when people don't feel welcome places, and so I'm always trying to make the most welcoming vibes I possibly can. Always. And do you know what I'm thinking about doing? Do you want to take a guess? I can give you a second to guess if you want to take a second. But I'll give you a hint, is that what it is me eating something. And I'll give you another hint, that something has marijuana in it. And I'm just gonna eat some of it right now because I feel like we reached a point in the night where it's like, why not just enjoy a little bit of an edible and just like continue to push forward into the night. It's kind of like when I'm going through this, I'm going into the wormhole of information and I'm trying to like channel the universe, and so this is like an interesting way to just open myself up to the energy a little bit more, I think. um but we're gonna get through the we're gonna get through the presentation in short order here. We've gone through 3 of the spectrums. We got the agnostic atheist, the atheist or theist, secular religious, and that's all really helpful stuff to clarify. But now we're on active versus inactive. Okay. And it's also really important. A better word for inactive might be passive. You might be able to use the word passive. Okay. So, first off, I'm gonna start with a historical note. So I'm gonna zoom out. I appreciate you all being here so much. Thank you so much for chilling in the stream. You know, something that I think I'd be good at, but I've never done before, is I think I'd be good, like, to do, like, trip therapy. Like, if people were, like, tripping, and I was just, like, hanging out with them, regardless of whether I was doing anything. I think I'd just be a good person to, like, have that experience around. And so, like, I imagine people that are tripping coming to this channel, and then, like, us connecting, like, psychically through the internet while they're tripping, and how trippy that would be for both them and for me. So, like, if you're ever tripping and I'm on, you should drop by. And I'll, like, kind of reach out and, like, give you, like, psychic weird things. I think I would be. But I also just, like, don't think of myself as a guide so much. It's more like just a companion. Just, like, someone to be with, and a supportive voice and soul. Okay, so we're gonna actually start with a historical note. I want to fix that I, if we can make it prettier. I keep meaning to, I'm gonna, like, go into Google. I'm gonna just try and find, like, a handwriting generator, so that I can just use my pen display and just make custom fonts of my own handwriting. Because I actually have, like, several different handwriting styles based on, like, how fast I'm trying to write and, like, what I'm writing. And, like, the way that I write numbers is really specific. And so, like, I'd really love it if I could have, like, a custom keyboard font that's my actual handwriting. I think that'd be pretty fun. Where, like, I just go in and, like, an AI kind of just takes it. But then, of course, the thing that's scary about that is that, like, then, like, if there was, like, a hacker, they could, like, take my signature and just sign shit for me. Anyways, but that can already probably happen, honestly. Okay, a historical side note. Okay, check this out. We're gonna try, this is kind of the equivalent of a kickflip for philosophy. There's, like, a little bit of a trick, and the trick is, can you spell the name Nietzsche without looking it up? It's kind of like doing a kickflip. Nietzsche. There's a Z in there somewhere. I definitely didn't spell it right. That's not correct. That would be the equivalent of not landing a kickflip in philosophy. If we want to look it up, we can see how close I was. There's definitely a Z in there somewhere, but at one point in my philosophy degree, I didn't need to reference how to spell Nietzsche. But Nietzsche. So the Z, I want the Z over there. Well, now we know. Let's see if I can do it without looking now. Niet. we go. Nietzsche. Okay, so obviously a huge philosopher. And God is dead. That's like one of the big ones. God is dead. And so, what did this mean, God is dead? Well, Nietzsche was concerned with the rise of nihilism, right? And maybe we should define what nihilism is. Nihilism is nothingness, meaninglessness, nothingness, meaninglessness, meaninglessness. God is dead, the nothingness, meaninglessness. Modern society bastardized all religion. All religion. God is dead. There's no more worthwhile religion. No more worthwhile religion. Strong stance. And most of us agree with Nietzsche. I mean, because he was opposing like a really orthodox, fucked up religion, you know? Obviously, Western shame culture. The Nietzsche kickflip, I know, right? Kind of goofy. Okay, so, and the whole God is dead thing is that Nietzsche was concerned. Nietzsche was concerned. He was concerned! Exclamation points, because he was seriously concerned. Active versus passive nihilism. So Nietzsche was worried passive nihilism would destroy the world. Passive nihilism would destroy everything. Destroy, ruin, create dystopia, on and on. On and on. And everything he did, everything was to inspire active nihilism. Active nihilism. Nihilism. And so what's active nihilism? Those of you who are into existentialism, you probably already know. Active nihilism is life has no meaning. Let's make our own. And it's like happy face. Passive nihilism is life has no meaning. No meaning. Let's drink ourselves to death. Nietzsche was genuinely concerned that everyone was going to want to kill themselves and that we would have the society that we literally have today. That's what Nietzsche was worried about. And Nietzsche was so smart that Nietzsche, throughout his lifetime, actually like didn't really write that much, and people would be like, Nietzsche, why don't you write more? And said, people are gonna write about me. Are you kidding me? And sometimes I feel like that. I feel like people are just gonna write about me, so I don't really need to write things down entirely. But luckily, Nietzsche did write some things, and so we have some really beautiful things. And we also have a very well documented philosophy that Nietzsche provided for us. And he was very concerned about this active and passive nihilism. Now, all of this has been a side note. Alright? So that's all aside from the point, because what are we talking about? We're talking about active versus inactive faith or belief. Faith or belief. So we have one more spectrum, right? And so let's draw the same thing. We have Gnostic, atheist, an agnostic atheist, and then there's an agnostic theist, and a Gnostic theist. And so that's our Gnostic spectrum right there. And what we're going to be looking at here is active versus inactive or passive. And then there's another thing that we can write down here, which is we could write in parentheses religious. Or you know what? We shouldn't say religious, and we can change this on the other one. We can write dogmatic is a better word. Dogmatic. And that's just another spectrum that's happening. That's not on this particular spectrum. No dogma. No dogma. That's just a separate. These are a separate spectrum. Separate, but parallel. But it's all like intertwined, right? Does that make sense? How it's like intertwined, kind of, even though it's separate. Okay, so then we have this active versus inactive thing. So you can be and this is where it gets like super complicated, right? There are 8 categories, and there's 8 total categories. Categories of understanding. And so let me try and demonstrate that on one new slide. And so these are going to be the categories of understanding. And this is going to be a lot of information on one slide, so I'm going to write this small. Understanding. Okay, so check this out. We're going to try and make this as simple as we can, but there's kind of a lot to say here. So there's active, and then passive / inactive. Kind of goes like down in a line. Go here. And then we can go, and we're making kind of a table here, of course. And so, right, there's the Gnostic atheist, there's the agnostic atheist, there's the Gnostic theist, or well, just to keep it like in the right order, we'll do the agnostic theist and the Gnostic theist. Okay, so here we go. Ready? This is our staunch atheist. I'm actually going to make our pen size smaller because we're going to write a lot of stuff on this slide here. And I think that after we talk about this, I might go on a break because this is going to be a lot of information here. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so this is our staunch atheist. outspoken, maybe dogmatic. You can disagree with me about this. You can disagree with me about these things, but I'm just making general, broad, like, explanations to sort of paint a picture of what like these perspectives look like. But the thing is that there's always going to be exceptions to all of these categories. I'm just sort of painting examples of what all these different intersections could be, because we talk a lot in feminism and just modern social justice discourse about intersectionality, and this is all intersections of religion and all intersections of faith and philosophy, and so these are all things to be respected. There's nothing bad. But yeah, an active Gnostic atheist is someone who believes that there's no God, they believe it's verifiable, and they're active in that they're trying to actually like sort of share and like kind of like you know, live according to their principles and living actively. That'll be true of all of these, but living actively. A passive atheist, a passive Gnostic atheist, this is kind of a sad one. Meaningless, hopeless. I think that there's sort of despair, or like pointlessness, because it's like capitalism, global warming, too much. Okay, it's too much. That's the most depressing one. If you're not, that's my opinion at least. I mean, the thing is that you can also be happy. You can also find peace in lack of creator. Like, you could find peace in that. I'm not trying to say that everyone there is depressed, but that perspective is that there's no God, and that there's no higher power, purpose, or meaning, and the whole passive inactive part of it on top. That's the spectrum that we're charting right now. If you're a passive atheistic Gnostic, then you're certain that there's no reason for us to be here, but you also like aren't motivated to change the world because the problems are too big, and you know, suffering is just so intense. Okay, so an agnostic atheist is probably secular. This is someone who probably has no firm conviction. Sort of centrist, I guess, is one word. I might change that. Now, an active agnostic atheist is inquisitive, good for good's sake, open to dialogue, right? These are just the first things that come to my mind. You might disagree, you might have a different perspective, and I'm not trying to like put everyone who's in these into one category. I'm just sharing like the first things that come to my mind when I think about these things. And we're gonna be finishing with what I am. But an agnostic theist, I guess that's kind of what I am, actually, is an agnostic theist. Well, but I am Gnostic. You know, it is all like a spectrum, so it's hard to say. But this is someone who accepts unverifiable faith. Unverifiable faith. And Probably secular still. Probably secular. And I guess like an agnostic theist would just like chill. Whereas an active agnostic theist believes in God and is out sort of trying to living in accordance with God, with religion, but not dogmatic. I don't know. No, that's not totally true. It's hard to say. But this is like one of the loosest slides, Justin. These are just like different examples. These are examples, really. Because again, you could go like forever on all of these things. Living in accordance with religion, but not defined by it, I guess. Okay, and a Gnostic theist that's passive. This is depressing. This is believes in God, but that we are sinners and separate. We are sinners and separate. Pessimistic Gnosticism. Pessimistic Gnosticism. And then this is optimistic Gnosticism. This is what I believe. Optimistic Gnosticism. We can know God and live to make God's world better. And that's kind of true of both of these. But an inactive Gnostic would not try to change the world. So Hindu people are here. Hindu. Let's just make that slide again, but we'll just like chart some faiths in there, maybe. So let's just really quickly faith chart. So let's do this again. That's not a good place for it. Right there, right here. And so agnostic atheist, Gnostic, or wait, so we'll start Gnostic atheist, agnostic atheist, agnostic theist, Gnostic theist. And so like Hindus are Gnostic theists, but well, no, this isn't a good one to chart with the active versus passive, but basically I do want to talk about passive and active a little bit more. Passive versus active more. So passive is sort of, we can't change anything. Can't change anything. And it's a purposelessness. And I agree with Nietzsche. I agree with... Oh, can we do the kickflip? Can we do it? I think we can this time. I agree with Nietzsche. Look at that kickflip. I agree with Nietzsche that that we should strive to live actively, no matter what we believe. If you're active, changing, try to change the world, engage with the world, and change yourself. Right? So that's a lot of stuff. That's so much stuff that we talked about. But that's like really a lot of the core stuff that we're trying to sort of put out here. Let me see if I wrote down anything else about this particular subject that I wanted to get out there. Yeah, I mean, I think I said basically everything I wanted to, honestly. uh, it's pretty good stuff, right? I hope that you like kind of came away with like a sort of good way to describe your sort of theistic views or non-views if you don't have them. Did anybody have any like questions or like things that they were curious about or thoughts about anything that we saw here? Because I'm probably going to go on break soon here. We actually are at the 2-hour point. This is a pretty solid part to take a break, but I'm really excited for the next part of the show because when we come back, we're actually going to be working on some stickers. And I actually did work on a sticker recently. Oh, let me take this off of the screen. Let me take that off the screen so that I'm not doxing myself too much here. And let me see if I can find the vegan sticker. Let's see, where did I save it? I think it might be in here. Probably this one. So I'm going to be releasing a series of stickers. And this is what I'm going to be working on when I get back. This is going to say vegan, by the way. I don't know if you all are familiar with vegan circle jerk. Vegan... Oh. Why is this not writing? It almost seems like the layers are locked. Is that true? Is there a reason why that would be the case? Because look at this. These are all like black for some reason. This is strange. I've never seen this before. Maybe we can just reopen GIMP here. I'm going to close out of this and discard the changes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save all these things up here, probably. Oh, this is going to take me a minute. So, you know what? I'll go on break right now. And I'll do some file management on my end here. And then we're going to open up the sticker and we're going to do some stickers when I get back. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And we might end the night with like Don Quixote because I've really enjoyed that as well. If you're here, please, if you have any amount to offer, I recommend throwing it to Vine, vegan run animal sanctuary in Vermont. And I'll be reading like if we got any more donations to that later on stream. And if you do donate, I'm gonna try and do $1 for every donation, every sub, and every cheer. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna take care of some of this pile stuff, and I'm also going to go ahead and get ready for our next section of the show. So I'll talk to you all very, very soon, and I'm looking forward to it.